This is Advanced Colored Pencil Techniques. We're going to start transitioning between colors first. I'm going to start with heavy pressure using a blue pencil on the left-hand side, and I'm going to create a gradient. So on the left-hand side is going to be heavy pressure, I'm going to transition into middle pressure, and then have very light pressure. This will start us off with a foundation that we can layer on in the future. Now that I have a gradient in my blue, I'm going to add a gradient with green. So I'm going to start on the right hand side using heavy pressure and repeat what we just did except opposite. So right hand side is going to be heavy, transition into middle tones, and then it's going to be very light tones filling the entire rectangle. What we're going to start to see is that areas where they overlap, the colors are going to start to blend together and they're going to mesh to create a blue-green color. This is one way that we can create a transition between colors. So layering them will help blend them together because we can't mix the two colors together like we would normally with paint. Layering is what mixes colors together. You're going to repeat this step again when you complete the red-orange transition, the blue-purple transition, and the orange and yellow transition. So just make sure you have heavy pressure on the left-hand side, create a gradient, and then have heavy pressure on the right-hand side with the other color, create a gradient going the opposite direction. Both of those are filling the entire rectangle. And you're going to make sure that you layer that middle area so that you can properly mesh the colors together to create a new one. Now we're going to move on to the next portion of this worksheet where we're going to be creating a transition between color schemes. We're going to have a warm color scheme, which is red, orange, yellow, and a cool one, which is green, blue, and purple. We're going to start just like we did with our previous step. I'm going to have heavy pressure on the left-hand side with my red colored pencil, and I'm going to go a little bit lighter, create that gradient until about in between the orange and the yellow section. I'm going to make sure that the red is very dark, and then I have a proper and smooth gradient with these. When that gradient is complete, I'm going to pull up my yellow colored pencil. I'm going to use heavy pressure on the right hand side, and I'm going to transition into a very light pressure, just like we did before, except on a larger scale, creating that gradient. We are going to go one more step than we did previously. We're also going to include our orange colored pencil, which is going to be the next step. With the orange colored pencil, you're going to go heavy pressure right in the middle, and then you're going to transition outwards. So you're going to start heavy in the middle, transition to a lighter shade towards the area that is labeled red, and you're also going to start heavy in the middle and transition towards a lighter shade in the area that says yellow. When you're working with yellow, it's a little bit harder because yellow is such a light color, so you need to make sure that you're using the side of your colored pencil to create a smooth gradient. We use the side because that's the area that shows the most pigment, and it will just help you create a smoother transition. If you were to use the tip of the pencil, the point of the pencil, one, it would take you forever, and two, it will look very rough and very jagged. We want very smooth transitions between our colors. After you have that orange layered in, it would be a good idea, just like always, to go and add more layers. Layering is really the key to colored pencil. The more colors you layer, the smoother it will appear, the more realistic an object that you draw may appear, and it just looks better overall. You're going to repeat the following steps we just learned with the green, blue, and violet transition. Now we're going to move on to creating a tint of a color. A tint is a lighter shade. We're going to start just like we did our other transitions, heavy pressure on the left, transition into a very light shade by creating a gradient, controlling that pressure using the side of our colored pencil. Except this time, instead of mixing it with another color, we're going to layer it with white. Now you might be thinking, white is the color of the paper. It already looks like a gradient. It already looks like it has white in there. Why would I want to do that? When you add a white layer on top, it blends the colored pencil together and it makes it appear smoother, and you can't see the tooth of the paper, so you can't see that grainy bit that's left behind. This is also called varnishing. Varnishing is adding a heavy layer using a color, using a light color, using white, or using a blending colored pencil over top that will help blend all of your layers together to create a smoother appearance. That technique is very important when you're trying to create a realistic looking composition. And it is one that we're using now and we will continue to use on a majority of the rest of these worksheets. So now we're going to be creating a shade. So a shade is a darker version of a base color. We're going to start off just like we have on all the rest of them. We're going to start heavy pressure on the left, transition into the right, something you've already done before. Except instead, this time when we have our other color that we are transitioning with, that we are blending together, we're going to be using black. When you add black to the color, that makes a shade. This is not commonly used in colored pencil, and it's not commonly used in paint either. When you add black to a shadow to make an object appear darker, unless it's an object that is already black, it flattens the object. It does not make it look more realistic, and black has like a bluish undertone to it, so it might also mess up the colors that you are using. So although this is an option to create a shade, it's not the most preferable one. We're going to be learning other ways to create a shade in the following sections of this worksheet.